Hey guys, it's Mariah. Welcome back, and today I'm going to be doing my wrap-up for the month of February. I'm pretty happy with my reading for February. I read 5 books this month, which is a decent amount for me, and I actually enjoyed every book I read, which doesn't happen very often, so I'm really excited about that. So I'm going to have a lot of positive vibes headed your way with all the books I'm reading and recommendations for you. The first book I finished in the month of February was Dreamland by Sarah Dessen. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. All I knew going into this was that it was a contemporary because I know that that is what Sarah Dessen writes. I really didn't realize that her contemporaries had such a, how do you say it? Like emotional, hard-hitting topics. Like this talks about a very unhealthy relationship. So I will let you know that if you have ever been in an unhealthy relationship that you think one might trigger you, then this probably would be triggering. I myself have been in an unhealthy relationship before. Not physically abused or anything like that, but I have been, so I could find myself relating a little bit to this character in some ways. So Dreamland follows Caitlin, who is just right after her older sister, who is 18, named Cass, runs away, and she runs off with her boyfriend that she met in, I believe, New York, to be on this TV show, and she just leaves a note for her parents and she runs away. This is, I believe, Caitlin's junior year when her sister runs away, and then she meets a boy. His name is Rogerson, and he's like this mysterious bad guy type thing, you know, the typical contemporary type book. I will say, though, that this book was kind of insta-lovey, and that's part of why I only gave it a 4 stars. And also another part was I just found myself getting really irritated with Caitlin as a character. Like, explain without, like, ruining anything for the book, but I'm just saying, I found myself getting irritated with Caitlin because she was, like, so head over heels in love with Rogerson that she just flew right into it, and anything he said, she was like waiting on him hand and foot, and I just didn't like that. I think that's just, I had a love-hate relationship with Caitlin. I really did feel bad for her, the parts that obviously you would feel bad for her, but at the same time, even before she got herself into those situations, I just wasn't connecting with her on a personal level. It was hard for me to kind of get into her mindset of why she was doing the things she was doing. It covers some hard-hitting topics, which I feel like don't get talked about that much. So I really did enjoy this, and I did give this a 4 out of 5 stars. I would recommend this as long as you are not too triggered by unhealthy relationships, because this has a very strong unhealthy relationship in it. And then I have Scythe by Neil Shusterman. I finished this book second. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I will leave a link in a cards to my book review on this because I go into full detail. I have a non-spoilery part and then a spoilery part. That's how I do all my book reviews. Because I have my review that you can go check out, I'm not going to go too much into this book, but I will give a really quick synopsis of this. In this world, there are no diseases, no hunger. People can basically do whatever they want, and if you die, you're rendered deadish, and you are brought back to life at a revival center. So basically, the only way you can actually die is if a scythe decides to glean you, which is what they call killing in this book. And the scythes are supposed to randomly be choosing who they are gleaning, and they all have different ways of how they choose who to glean. And then there is a scythe fair day that meets Citra and Rowan, and he decides to take them on as his apprentices to basically be a scythe in training. And this just follows them on their journey on what it's like to become a scythe and what it means, and kind of coming to terms with the reality of the world they were living in because they were so oblivious to it before. This was a really good book. It covered a lot of different topics. It had a lot of political intrigue in it, and I would highly recommend this book. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. I think that anyone would enjoy this personally. The next book I finished was Anna and the French Kiss. I also filmed a review for this. I don't believe it'll be up before the wrap-up, but I will leave it linked down below after I upload it so you can check it out afterwards. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. This was such a fun read for me. I found myself flying through it. I read the, let's just say I read the last 300 pages in one day. Basically one sitting, but I got up to drink and stuff like that. But for the most part, I flew through this book in one sitting. I really enjoyed it. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. Some people do have a problem with this because they believe that it kind of romanticizes cheating. I don't see it that way. I think personally you just have to read the book to decide for yourself your thoughts on it. Everyone has their own opinions on that, but I still really thoroughly enjoyed the story, and I thought it was fun, and I thought the characters were funny. I found myself laughing and crying, and I really empathized with Anna and a lot of the stuff she was going through because she is shipped off to a boarding school over in Paris, and she didn't really want to go, and it's her senior year, and all these students have gone there the previous years, and she is now the new kid, and she's just kind of feels left out. And then she meets Meredith and her group of friends, and then obviously she meets a boy. His name is St. Clair, and she starts to fall in love with him even though she doesn't want to, and she knows that she shouldn't because St. Clair has a girlfriend. And I do want to say that this has a strong aspect of friendship. Anna and St. Clair are really good friends. For the majority of this book, it's purely a friendship, but Anna has feelings for him, and they have a great friendship in this book. And then Anna and Meredith have a good friendship, and I do think that this book covers friendship really well, and I just really enjoyed this book. Like I said, I laughed, I cried, and not very many books can do that to me, so I was really in a contemporary mood, and I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I have is from my Try a Chapter tag, which I will leave linked below. This is the book I picked to read. It was kind of a slow start to reading it because I put it down and read a couple other books, and that is The Creeping by Alexandria Sorority. I believe that's how you pronounce her name. Ooh! I just saw like those hands right there, and it creeped me out. I was like, ugh, what the hell? Okay, back to the book. So this book follows Stella. When Stella was 6 years old, her and her friend Jeannie went into the woods, and she came out, but Jeannie did not. And Stella cannot remember what happened. She kind of drew a blank, and her disappearance becomes like an unsolved mystery. And this is Stella the summer before her senior year. She's 17 years old, and another girl shows up who looks very, very similar to her friend that went missing, dead in the cemetery. So this kind of throws into a reopening of the investigation and her trying to figure out what happened and remember. Since the summer before her senior year, I did find a little bit of the book to be like a lot of drama because her friend's so focused on being popular and making sure that their senior year is the best year ever and prom's the most important day of their lives, and that part I didn't like about it, but I really enjoyed the mystery. It kept me on my toes. I did not see the ending coming. The love interest in this I really enjoyed. I thought it was adorable, and it was exactly kind of the amount of romance that I would want in a thriller book, because when I read a thriller book, I'm not super looking into romance, but I found myself wanting more of this relationship to pop up in the book when I was reading because I really enjoyed reading it. I gave this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. This is a really good book. Nothing that like would make me give it a 4 or a 5. It wasn't something that's going to stick with me, I don't think, but it was still a good book and I really enjoyed it. The last book that I finished in February, I actually listened to an audiobook, and that is The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. This did take me a little bit to get through because I'm a slow audiobook listener. It takes me about 2 or 3 weeks, sometimes longer, to get through an audiobook just because I forget about it, or I'm in the middle of doing something and I'm like, oh, I could be listening to it, and then I forget. This book follows Cora. She was born a slave, and it just follows her journey on, obviously, on the Underground Railroad and looking towards freedom, and it just kind of shows all the aspects of it. It goes back in time to where her mother was a child and part of when her grandmother was still alive, and some of it jumped around a little bit, which made it really hard for me to understand, especially because I was listening to it and I wasn't 100% sure who was actually talking or whose perspective this was from. So that kind of took away from it for me because I would find myself getting confused and losing track of what was going on, because they'd start a chapter and the person talking would be someone I didn't even know who the character was. So it just took me a little bit to get caught up on what was going on. I feel like the person who did the narrations did a great job. It was just one person, but she did a really good job at changing her voice when different people were talking and using different accents for different people of different parts of America at that time. And I thought it was fantastic. Obviously, you're rooting for Cora, and then every time something good happens, you get really excited, and every time something disappointing happens, you get upset. I really loved this. I love historical fiction. This was a great book for me. I loved all the different aspects about it and hearing about just different parts of America and how different parts of the Underground Railroad would have worked. And I thoroughly enjoyed this. The ending wasn't 100% like as what I was expecting, but I still enjoyed it nonetheless. And this book was so heartbreaking and touching, and I just really enjoyed it. And I would love to read more books by this author because I enjoyed his writing and it was a great book. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars, just the little half off because I was finding it hard to follow. I don't know if I would have read it. It would have been easier, but still it was an amazing book. Those are all the books that I read in the month of February. I will leave links to the videos that I mentioned down below, and as always I leave my social media and a little bit of other information down there for you to check out. Since I'm participating in the Read-A-Rama, I'm going to be updating on Goodreads and Twitter as much as possible, so make sure you follow both of those if you want to keep up with me, or if you're going to be in the Read-A-Rama and you want to talk to me about what you're reading as well. I have a TBR for that in March, which I will also leave in the cards for you. That way you can check it out and see what I'm reading, and you can see all the information about the read-o-rama. That's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you next time. Bye!